Eternal Snow, Chapter 1, Mystic Legend. Sesshoumaru sat down the scroll he was studying when he heard a creak in the door. He pulled out a part of his demonic blood to the surface as his eyes faded red.
Sesshoumaru-sama?
A quiet voice whispered. Sesshoumaru relaxes as he stood to open the door. The little girl backed up as he stepped forward.
Sesshoumaru-sama, Rin is hungry,
she whispered as her stomach growled in truth. Sesshoumaru turned as Rin grabbed the edge of his pants. They soon reached the kitchen.
Jargon!
Sesshoumaru called out. The small toad demon crept out at his master's call.
Find something suitable for Rin to eat.
Yes, master,
he said with a low bow. Sesshoumaru left, going back to his study. He sat down onto the pillow and picked up the scroll he'd been reading. He was interrupted yet again by loud whispering from the servants.
Did you hear? It's snowing! But it's still autumn. It's still warm. How? It's not even winter yet. How snow is falling?
Sesshoumaru blocked out the noise and continued reading.
There are many demons. The most unusual demons are those of the unicorn. Unicorn demons are the rarest of all. They say there are only 100 left and dropping. It is said when the last unicorn dies, it will become eternally night, eternally winter, and always shall it snow. When the unicorn comes near danger, it will begin to snow. When safety comes near, it will stop.
Eternal snow, huh? Sesshoumaru mused to himself as he set the scroll down. He stood and headed for the window. Indeed, it was snowing. Sesshoumaru soon walked out of his castle. From what he knew, this was either a strange phenomenon or the curse of eternal snow. As he went deeper into the forest, he caught wind of a strange scent. It smelt like blood, yet there was something different about it. He decided to check it out. When he approached the scent, he noticed many demons huddled around something. He let out a deep growl, making them all turn around.
Who are you?
One shouted.
Are you insane?
Another asked the one that had screamed.
Do you have any clue who that is? That is the demon lord of our lands.
There was a short argument before they all finally left. Sesshoumaru looked down and held back his surprise. A young woman lay unconscious before him. It was obvious that she had gone under some transformation, for her clothes were no longer with her. She had iridescent white hair and tail, along with a spiraling horn on her head, and he knew this was the one he'd read about. What intrigued him the most was her wounds. Her blood was not red, but silver, a metallic silver. He knelt down to pick her up with his one arm. He covered her with his tail as she began to stir.
You are safe,
he whispered, trying not to startle her. Her eyes were amber, much like his own. Pure innocence filled them. What is your name? He asked. She slowly moved her lips, but nothing came out. He watched slowly at each movement.
Fi?
He repeated her syllable as she mouthed it.
Oh?
He continued.
Na?
She stopped as he said the last one.
Fauna? Fiona? Fiona.
She made a weak nod as she turned her gaze forward. Sesshoumaru was amazed at the amount of trust she had in him. He headed back to his castle. He went into one of the bedrooms where he laid her down. He walked over to the dresser and pulled out a short-sleeved white kimono with silver and baby blue designs. Fiona put the clothes on slowly, without a word. She stayed sitting up on the bed as Sesshoumaru walked to a vanity.
Can you stand?
He asked quietly. Fiona slowly stood and took a small step toward him before falling. Sesshoumaru bent down and helped her up. He led her to a chair in front of a mirror. He grabbed a brush, realizing how tangled her hair was. He slowly ran the brush through her hair, being as gentle as he could possibly be. You're the last? Sesshoumaru asked as he finished her hair. Fiona ducked her head as tears welled up in her eyes. She slowly stood as her knees trembled. Sesshoumaru tried to help her walk, but she pushed him away. She limped her way to the bed, where she lay face down, soaking the pillow with silent tears. Sesshoumaru felt a pain of guilt hit him. If she was indeed the last, he needed to show her as much respect as he himself would receive. He walked over to the bed and sat on the edge.
Milady, Why do you weep?
Fiona looked at him. He felt more guilt as she laid her head back. He could see the fear in her eyes.
I assure you, there is nothing to fear.
She lifted her head, again, as she sat up, a questioning look on her face, as if asking if he was serious. He nodded his head as she wiped away her tears with her wrist.
If you wish,
he added,
you may live here in my castle. You will be protected at all times.
Fiona nodded. Sesshoumaru heard a small grumble. He stood and walked to the door.
I'll send someone with food for you later.
Fiona nodded again. Sesshoumaru walked out, closing the door behind him.
Sesshoumaru-sama? Who was that?
Rin asked curiously. Sesshoumaru got an idea as he knelt down.
Rin, there's a girl in there I want you to talk to. Her name is Fiona. She won't speak.
He cracked the door as Rin stepped in. Sesshoumaru closed the door and listened. Rin walked quietly towards the bed. The room was dark and quiet.
Fiona-sama?
She whispered. The movement of a head quickly turning toward her startled her. She fell back and held in her scream. The figure bent forward, lighting a candle. Rin let out a sigh of relief at the gentle expression on Fiona's face. Rin climbed onto the bed in front of Fiona.
Why don't you speak?
Fiona frowned and turned her head.
It is okay. Rin didn't speak for a few days when she met Sesshoumaru-sama. Don't you have anything to say?
Fiona looked up at Rin.
Is there a need to talk?
Her voice was gentle, almost a whisper.
No, but it's nice to talk about things.
Fiona blinked in confusion.
Things? Like what?
Rin looked up at thinking.
Like... What's your favorite food?
Fiona jumped up.
Apples!
Rin smiled.
Rin likes apples too!
Fiona giggled, realizing she had a new friend.
Do you want to talk to Sesshoumaru-sama?
Fiona stopped and looked at the door. She frowned and turned away.
Okay,
Rin said happily.
you don't have to. Do you want some apples? Rin will get some.
Fiona watched as the cheerful child ran out. Rin closed the door quietly.
Fiona-sama is very shy.
She said with a smile. Sesshoumaru set a hand on her head.
Thank you.
He dismissed her as she hopped down the hall on one foot, singing softly. Sesshoumaru turned back toward her door. He was about to open her door when he heard soft crying. He felt the pang come back as he set his hand on the edge of the door. He slid it open and walked in, closing it. Fiona had her face on her knees.
Milady!
He called out. She shook her head.
Why are you so sad?
When she didn't answer, he walked toward her. Her horn shimmered in the candlelight. He reached a hand forward lightly, touching it. Fiona sprung up, letting out a shrill scream as her vision went negative a few times. As fast as she jumped up, she collapsed back down. Sesshoumaru blinked his eyes, snapping out of the shock. He noticed a green glow around her horn.
What
He asked out.
was that?
He looked down at Fiona. She seemed to be in a daze or trance. Her eyes were half open, but she wasn't moving except for her light breathing. He looked outside and noticed it was snowing again. He looked back down to Fiona.
What happened?
Reviews always welcome.